Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to another edition of the Home Team Podcast. My name is Matt Moriarty with the Moriarty Agency at Farmers Insurance, and I am part of a trifecta of fantastic hosts. First being the always awesome ninja realtor, Chandler Findler.
Hello, everyone. Chandler Findler here, your residential realtor with Live Sotheby's International Realty.
And the mortgage man himself, John Reed.
Hey everybody, John Reed with New American Funding. I'm your residential home loan consultant.
See, it was brand new. That was on the fly.
That was good. That was good.
I know. I got to go with something better than the always awesome. So, so obviously we are doing this podcast, sticking to the government guidelines of not, coming together. So we're doing this via Zoom, which has two main things that's happening here. First and foremost, you get to see our smiling faces, all four of us here, and the three of them are better looking than I am. So we'll just go like this to get that. But so you get to see us, and this is something that we've always wanted to do. We've never figured out the technology. Now we have the technology, so you can actually see our expressions while we're doing this. And the other thing is that we are getting the we're going to be recording this as well, and just getting your information, because we know we've all adapted to the new guidelines that are out there, and we want to make sure we are giving you this as well. So our guest today, you may recognize her, right? So she's actually been on our podcast before. It was one of the most listened to ones, believe it or not. Yeah, see, there you go. So, we have Stephanie Dahl with Dahl Fischer, and she is the last podcast was titled Wills, Trusts, and Estates. I think, oh my, right? But that's what she does. And we wanted to bring her on here because it's interesting, how business, is going to be moving forward with regards to everything that's going on. Because, in her business, a lot of it has to do with, being there and being present, but we wanted to find out kind of how she continues her business during the COVID-19 epidemic. So Kelly was the last one. So Stephanie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you all doing?
Amazing.
Doing fantastic.
Great.
Everybody
Quarantine
enjoying their
style.
home offices?
Say it again.
I said, is everybody enjoying their home offices?
We are.
It'll do, right?
I'm an extrovert. I would rather see people and be with people, but one day at a time.
But you are seeing everyone here, so this is the best part about it. So
This is true. I feel
Yeah.
like
I'm
I'm
a
with you.
hugger, so this is really hard for me when I see people from a distance. I really want to go and give them a hug, and I'm like, oh, hey. So
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting too, because they're saying that that handshaking is a thing of the past, right? I don't know, from a business standpoint. I mean, I'm so used to just going up to somebody and being like, "Hey, how you doing?" I don't know how I'm gonna adapt, but that's part of being human, is to adapt to new things. So, but Stephanie, so we wanted to have you on here and talk a little bit about kind of your business, because it's important, right? A lot of people, from my perspective, a lot of people are contacting us with regards to life insurance, right? Because at this time, people are really starting to think, oh my gosh, do I have my affairs in order? What would happen if, right? Everybody in the world today, prior to this, I think a lot of people thought, I'm in my 20s or I'm in my 30s or early 40s. And death is a long time away, hopefully, right? Or something that catastrophic happening. I don't really want to think about that. It's kind of morbid, all that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing kind of with your industry too, right? A lot of people kind of put that stuff off and think that, hey, yeah, I can do that tomorrow. Well, given, the face, the environment that we're in, well, tomorrow's kind of today now. And are you finding that a lot of people are taking advantage of this?
I am. I will say that I agree with you, Matt. Estate planning is one of those things that everybody is like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. We'll get it done this year. And you don't need it until you need it, and then it's too late. And so unfortunately for people, or I guess fortunately for a lot of people, this has kind of been that trigger. So we've been getting a lot of phone calls saying, how quickly can we get this done? We want to move forward on the process. Like I said, unfortunately, because we have this pandemic going on, it's causing people to to realize they probably need this in place, versus if we didn't have anything going on, it would probably be, and I had been guilty of it too, I'll do it next year, I'll do it next week, whenever, because we all are busy people, and so it's hard to fit it into your schedule.
And so how are you kind of conducting? I mean, are you doing something similar with regards to what we're doing here, kind of a Zoom? And what are the kind of the challenges that come up with that?
Absolutely. So, normally when we meet with clients, we have them come into our office, we sit down, we do a face-to-face.
I've been there.
Yep. They talk to us. We talk about what they want to see happen. And right now, obviously, with all the orders in place, we can't do that. So we have quickly adapted to figure out what we can do. We do Zoom calls for all of our potential clients so that they can see us face to face, because I think it's important, right, to put a face with a voice. If a client doesn't have the capabilities to do a Zoom call, we still do phone calls. We can still pick up the phone and have a conversation. All of our stuff is complimentary in terms of explaining the process, education about the process, all of that. So if people have questions, we just, we want people to be educated in this time and know what's happening. So first we do a Zoom phone call or a phone call, whatever works for our clients. And then once we get everything going, we email out all the documents. Again, if they don't have email, that's okay. We will mail the documents. I know I have some people who have elderly parents, so their kids are actually kind of acting as the conduit for me to email documents. They'll get them to their elderly parents. We can also just mail the old-fashioned way, which works too. And then they get the documents back to us. We can still go into the office, check our mail, everything else, so that's not an issue. And then in terms of, we get the documents drafted, send them drafts to look at. And then when it's time to execute the documents, this is when it gets a little tricky, because again, normally what we'd have you do is come into the office. We like to do self-proving wills, which means that they're notarized and you have two witnesses who saw the person sign. And a lot of people have heard that the governor came out and relaxed the rules on notarization, so they are allowing remote notarization now, which means you can do it over a Zoom call. The issue with this is the order doesn't speak to anything about witnesses being remote. So the witness has to be in the conscious presence of the person who is signing the document. So there's a lot of discussion between all the estate planning attorneys of like, what does that really mean? Because while it may be relaxed for this, when we come to a place where that will is put in front of the probate court, are they going to find that it's self-proving if the witnesses appeared remotely? So we're trying to adapt to that, advise our clients the best way to go forward. We haven't gotten direction from the court, from the governor's office yet, so we're just kind of waiting on that. Additionally, for attorneys, when we have notaries in our office who can notarize, the other piece of it is we have to make sure that our all attorneys have to carry malpractice, just like real estate agent carry, is it O&E insurance?
Oh, yeah.
I knew I was gonna mess that one up.
Errors and omissions, but errors and omissions and malpractice are the same thing.
Same thing.
Exactly the same.
Right, you have to carry it, but we all have to make sure that remote notarizations, while the governor's allowed it, we have to make sure it's covered, because everything we do, we want to make sure our clients are protected every step of the way. So I had two clients who were elderly, but we wanted to get this done. So we actually met outside. I brought two witnesses that stood about 10 feet away. I have an N95 mask, so I wore that. We got it all done and taken care of. So I have clients who we're just sending the docs to because they're nurses or doctors and they have a notary at the hospital. They can have witnesses, so they can almost execute the document there. So we advise them with the instructions on how to do it, how to make sure. Then we collect the documents to make sure they were done properly, so that every kind of T is crossed and I is dotted for our clients.
Wow. So anybody can serve as a witness. So you said like nurses, etc.
Yep. So they just have to be, your witnesses on a will or a living will they have to be over the age of 18 and a disinterested party. So, you don't want your spouse to serve as a witness, because then, right, it's the appearance of impropriety kind of argument. Yeah. So I always try and bring witnesses. I like to bring my business. Currently in this time, I bring my law partner and I bring my husband, because I've been around them. And so that way we aren't, putting anyone else in jeopardy. But so they come and they stand back and we get it taken care of for our clients.
Wow, amazing. So what changes do you foresee that this quarantine and all the new processes have brought? Like what changes do you see that are going to stick in your industry for the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. I think from the consumer side, from all of my clients' side, I think that this will be, it will push people to realize that, hey, we do actually need to have some sort of documents in place. And it may not be a full, like doing a will or a trust. It could just be kind of some of our ancillary documents like powers of attorney, living wills, things like that we can talk about. So I think it'll push people to realize, like, we never know what's coming. We never know what could happen. So let's get these things in place now. I think from a business side of this, in terms of the legal side, I think what we have realized is that we have a ton of things that are conflicting with one another. The probate code says one thing versus what certain orders are, what rules are. So, really sitting down and saying, okay, how does this actually work? We can do a lot of stuff remotely. How do we make this work? How do we make sure that it's on the up and up, that it's done ethically? Can we record things? Can we do, like, how do we do this to best serve our clients, but also to create, we don't want to make it so cumbersome anymore that people don't do it. Because a lot of times, kind of to your point at the beginning, Matt, is that people say, I just don't have the time. I don't, right? Because I think this is going to be a huge process, and we try and make it as simple as possible, but there are rules and regulations we have to follow. So I'm hopeful that this will allow us to say, maybe we don't need to make it as complicated as it's been. Maybe we can sit down and figure out the best way possible so that everybody is protected.
So just for our listeners and our viewers, right? Some of the things that she's talking about, whether it be probate, whether it be, wills, trusts, estates, any of those types of things. I mean, you go back and listen to our podcast from before where she explains it, but just from a 10,000 foot view, if you could kind of give people an idea of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So from a really high level, when we talk about estate planning, it's the documents you do before, like while you're alive. So when you go in, estate planning includes a trust, a will, guardianship paperwork, a financial power of attorney, a living power of attorney, a living will, all of those kind of documents that you sit down with a lawyer and you talk about, this is what I want to see happen to my people and my stuff, right? And me. On the flip side of that, probate is once you have passed, it's the administration of your estate. So it is following the wishes that you've laid out in your estate plan. Where if your children are minors, where do they go? If you've selected where your money is going to go, who gets it, the disbursement of that, things like that. So they're on two separate levels. One, the planning side, the estate planning side, and then on the other side is probate, the administration of kind of cleaning all of that up.
So would you say, back a little bit, would you say that based on, the quarantine and the virus and everything, you see going forward your industry, enacting more virtual practices?
I think it's interesting because I think one thing that this kind of quarantine has taught us all is that we actually really do love human interaction. And I think that when you are dealing with really serious stuff, people really want face-to-face. So I don't think we will go completely away from kind of that in-person meeting. But I do think that this has taught, and it's including me, is that we can offer, I do on my initial intake with my clients where I sit down and I talk about, like, here's what we do and here's how we do it. What do you want to see happen? What are your goals? Things like that. Everybody's super busy and they have kids and they have all these different things that it has caused me to even realize that, hey, we could do that via a Zoom call, right? We could sit down once you've got the kids to bed. I'm happy to sit down and talk later in the evening so that we can go through all of this. And it doesn't always, not every meeting has to be in person. We can adapt for what is best for each individual kind of client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And then, make it easier too. Like you said, and I know, I'm a realtor, so I do a lot of, outside of their work hours, right? I do a lot of nights, like a lot of weekends, when people aren't distracted by other things. So, providing that on Zoom is easier, right? Than, an 8 to 5, like business meeting, that people can't always swing, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Unless lawyer offices start offering daycare.
You know, I've been homeschooling my kids for about, 2-3 weeks now, and I don't know that I want to do that. Bless our teachers for everything they do, because I really, really, I appreciated them before and all they do. I've volunteered in the classroom, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how you do it. And now having them at home, I'm like, ooh, I do not know how you do that. So, but we can figure something out, Jalen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm good. I saw a meme and it was like, oh, this Christmas I'm going to give the teachers a Range Rover instead of a box of chocolate and a cheap candle for their holiday present. So I thought to show the appreciation, because now all the parents have some insight into it.
Absolutely.
So funny. So funny. So what is it? You keep bringing up notaries. It's just so for everyone, we have them in real estate, and they have to notarize certain documents to transfer land and things like that. But so you guys use notaries so what is their purpose in the estate? Just to make sure that.
Right.
And just for our listeners real quick too, can anyone be a notary, right? So you have to actually go out and get accredited.
Notarized. You have to actually go out and get notarized.
There you go.
Yeah, you have to take a test. I'm a notary. Our paralegal's a notary.
Nice.
You have to go and do a course and take a test and everything. And so, we have certain all of our documents, all of the estate planning documents need to be notarized. So your financial powers of attorney, your will, your trust, your guardianship paperwork, all of those have to be notarized, because what we want to make sure is that once we get to the probate side, hopefully it's years and years down the road, but that the document that we're going to put in front of the court that says, here's what I wanted to have happen, someone can say, that is in fact Stephanie Dahl that signed that, and I verified it by her driver's license, by her passport, by something else, so that someone can't just bring a will in and say, this was Stephanie's will. She wanted to give everything to Chandler and Matt, I swear. And John's like, you got me.
Wait a second.
But right, so we want to make sure that the information we put in front of the court is legal. It is what the person wanted, and we have a way to verify that. Because as a notary, you all know, we keep our books so that when someone comes back and says, hey, are you sure? This is how I verified that person is who they said they were. And same thing with the witnesses. This is how I know that witness was there. They signed my book. This is how I knew who they were. So
a checks and balances system for, certain types of important documents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Were you using Zoom prior to this at all?
So I have used Zoom before, but not for client meetings. No.
Yeah, I know, because it's amazing. And we kind of talked about this a little bit in the podcast that precedes this that Chandler and John and I did. But it's amazing the way business is changing via technology, right? And I mentioned in the podcast, you might remember if you listened to it, that pulling clients in to do an insurance review is like pulling teeth, right? Just because everyone's just so busy and everything like that. But I would imagine in your world, there's people that you have to communicate with that are out of state as well, that are in the process, and this is kind of a solution that will allow you to kind of people are more comfortable with it moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is, right, if you think about coming into my office to meet with me, if we're going to do an hour meeting, and I know where all your offices are, it's going to take you probably about 20 minutes, 30 minutes by the time you get to my office, park and get into my office. So what you have to block in your day is about a 2-hour window for an hour meeting with me, versus getting on a Zoom call, only 1 hour. And then you can jump right back into what you're doing. So the efficiency of it is great for a lot of people who are like, I need to get this done, but I don't have 2 hours in the middle of the day when I'm trying to do my own work to come in and see you. So, yeah.
Which then it prevents people from potentially, going online and doing like some, program that they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
And ends up that, my kids end up going to Stephanie and she's like, wait, what? So,
What?
I am not homeschooling them, Matt.
You sure? Come on now. No, but it's just, It's just crazy, like that. It's, you know, and we all deal with this with regards to people doing stuff online, right? And it's convenient. You'll give it that, but doing it correctly is like, you know, that's just not there, right? I mean, people don't know what they don't know. There are experts in certain industries for a reason, and doing something wrong with any of our industries, and most service industries in general, especially our industries, can be really bad, right? I mean, you know, in our case, you know, it could be catastrophic. Meeting with an expert and making sure that you know, and you know, we all obviously know Stephanie, and she does a fantastic job. But if you're, whether you're listening to us across the country or what have you, make sure you're dealing with an actual expert and not just trying to do these things yourself.
Well, and I think about it, Matt, in terms of how many times you've gone into, and I think it's coming up a lot with a lot of the businesses applying for the economic disaster relief loan and the loan. The number of posts I've seen about questions like, what do they mean by this? What do they mean by that?
Yeah.
And it's hard for everybody because there's no one actually to answer these questions. I don't know if anybody knows the answers to these questions yet, but the reality is it's the same thing with estate planning. It'd be the same thing with real estate, same thing with insurance, same thing with mortgage. Like, you sit there and you're like, it's not the number of times my clients, when we go through because we always go through drafts and things like that, they're like, what does this mean? What does this say? And if you do it online, you can't ask anybody. You know, it's hard to ask and get your questions answered and get actual legal advice, because that's the other piece is the online services. They can give you a definition, but they can't actually provide you with legal advice, which is what I do, is provide you with actual legal advice in terms of what you can and can't do, what it means, all of those things.
You know what's funny is I've anytime that I go to a website and they have the FAQ, the frequently asked questions, I always go to it. They never have my question ever.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, what, like, you know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, you think it's a common question, right?
Right.
You're just
that
thinking
frequent.
do what?
Not that frequent.
Right.
But it's a good question. It's the question I want to answer. So yeah, no, I mean, definitely, like, being able to interact with someone, and be able to ask those questions, get that personal service. And I don't know about you guys, but there's just something too when you're dealing with someone. You want to make sure that you trust them, right? And you can't do that with an online thing, and you can't do that, you know, because you want to make sure that they have your best interests at heart, right? And that does not come across online at all. You know, I mean, you can technically, I mean, Chandler did a fantastic presentation that we all witnessed, that, you know, of the differences between, you know, going and spending like $1,000 for, you know, some of the companies out there, I won't say their names, versus using an actual professional, and you come out ahead using an actual professional. Like, and a lot of people don't know that. Same thing, you know, with some of the competition. John goes up against myself, and Stephanie as well. So, you know, it's just having that connection and being able to have someone there when you need the questions answered is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm getting calls from all sorts of my clients being like, what do I need? What about this? And you can't do that with an online service. So
you cannot.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you and your services.
Oh, you're so
Absolutely.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
They can call our main office. It's 303-758-7700. And we are answering the phones. We are talking to people so they can calendar an estate planning intake with us. It'll get on the calendar. It's complimentary. We'll talk to them. We'll get them a Zoom link, or the phone, whatever is necessary for them. And we can kind of talk through, you know, do they want a full estate plan? Do they just want powers of attorney or living will? Kind of what are they looking for? What do they need right now? And then if they decide to move forward, we'll go from there. But yeah, they can just give us a call. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us and get on our calendar quickly.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. This has been extremely informative as always. And we'll post a link to the original podcast that we did with Stephanie as well, which was fantastic as well. So, but we just appreciate the time, and we just wanted to keep everyone, you know, updated as to what's going on in each individual industry. And again, a lot of you right now are thinking about these things, right? Contact Stephanie, right? She can help you. She does a fantastic job, and makes things easy, and make sure that, you know, in the event, we don't ever want anything bad to happen, but if something bad happens, you want to make sure that you know your kids are going to the right area, and that your last wishes, which you know are done. I mean, we've talked about this before, you know, with regards to life insurance, right? Your beneficiaries, right? You know, if someone has a 20-year-old policy, maybe they had someone as their, you know, beneficiaries now that they're not even married to anymore.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Nope. So give
Nope.
Stephanie a call. So again, thank you so much for listening. As always, Home Team Podcast on Facebook, and then also on Instagram. Chandler?
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. Chandler Fendler here. You can follow me on Instagram at Chandler Fendler.
And TikTok.
Oh, and TikTok. I'm going to be the new TikTok sensation. The longer we're in quarantine, the more videos, people.
Oh my gosh, my kids love them, Chandler.
Oh dear.
Love them.
Did you tell them more to come from Auntie Chan Chan?
Okay, I will. They'll be so excited.
And you can find me on Instagram at John Reed Home Loans, as well as Facebook is John C. Reed.
And again, my name is Matt Moriarty with the Moriarty Agency at Farmers Insurance. My handle, I think I'm saying that right, is Matt_insurers_Colorado, or you can find a Facebook page, and we'll include this all in the show notes as well, but the Moriarty Agency on Facebook as well. So thank you so much. This has been so informative.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next time.